Hi, I'm Shay, and I'm here to talk about goddess archetype work. For anyone who has maybe heard of working with goddesses or archetypes, and you're wondering, like, how do we do that? How do we access, different parts within ourselves by looking outside of ourselves with these energies, and why do we work with them? What is the benefit? So I'm just going to share a little short explanation of how I work with the goddesses. There are so many different ways, and the benefits that can really come from archetype work. For one, archetype work is actually really grounded work. It's not so much that we're seeing this like divine image outside of us and doing quite esoteric, very ethereal, what other words? Even woo-woo comes to mind. It's not as if we're trying to connect with something outside of us and then like magically bring it in and then we're in that archetype. There's so many ways to do it, and the way that I work with it most, and the way that I've received archetype work from other people as well, is that it's so practical, and it's more about seeing outside of us this like image of a way to be, image of different energies, image of an embodied way of being, and recognizing those qualities within ourselves, and using that like a mirror for who we are inside. And it's really helpful for us as humans to do that, to connect with an image outside of us, to then anchor and feel that image within us. So it's not as if that we're trying to embody the goddess outside. It's not as if we're like bringing this in and like, okay, I'm the goddess now. No, it's recognizing that this image is actually just an energy within us. And I believe that these goddesses, this understanding of goddesses and the stories we have around them in all of the different traditions, were really creations of something that we have felt within us. That their stories are stories that are ours, collective stories, collective energies. And so they're just brought out into this image so that we can see that. It's like a mirror for us and who we are. So the goddess archetype work, there is so many goddesses. And the work that I do is based on 4 goddesses from the Hindu tradition, so from the yoga tradition. We do this in a way, again, which is really practical and grounded, using different understandings of their energies and then noticing how they feel within us, noticing those energies. How do those energies show up within us? How are we repressing those energies? How are we blocking that? And so how then can we express them more? So I'm going to give you an example. The 4 goddesses that I work with are Saraswati, Lakshmi, Durga, and Kali. And I work with these goddesses in my retreats that I hold here in Bali. I also work with the goddesses in an online goddess immersion. And that's where we dedicate like specific time, a whole week, to each of the goddesses with different practices and one-to-one support and calls with me, which is a one-to-one format actually. It's a private immersion rather than a group immersion. So I'm going to give you an example of Goddess Durga, because that is the week I'm about to go into in the immersion that I'm currently holding. So she's very much in here for me. Durga is an energy really grounded, and she's like this warrior woman energy. And it's about this idea of really being able to speak up for yourself and to express that and to set your boundaries. And again, it's that like more intensity. She's less about like the sort of floaty, higher realm goddess like Saraswati is. Durga is a different energy. And her energy is expressed when she can say yes or no in her power. When I say her, by the way, I mean that energy within you. So I'm just going to start using you. When you can speak up for yourself, ask for what you want and need. When you can set your boundaries and say something, say when something is not okay. And all of these things come from love. It's not aggression. It's not an energy of anger. It's not a wicked woman. It's a wise warrior woman. And it's coming from knowing in your heart the truth and what you need. It's expressing your no from love. So she does that. She anchors us in to our power to do that. And there's ways that we unconsciously repress that. So when we are using passive language, when we're kind of beating around the bush to ask for what we want, like because we don't want to just be too direct with it, because we're scared of that direct energy. It's when we're scared of saying no, so we're people pleasing, always saying yes to someone, when we know that actually it wouldn't serve us or even them to keep saying yes. It's when we make ourselves smaller in life. It's when we don't stand up for ourselves or others. Why do we repress? Because somewhere along the line we learnt that it's not okay to have this direct and powerful energy, that it meant that we were bossy, aggressive, that we wouldn't be seen as kind anymore. And I really believe that the reason why we're repressing this energy is because we've only seen this powerful energy, this yes and no energy, this setting boundaries from a toxic place. We've seen the imagery of that happening outside of us coming from really toxic expressions of like saying no, toxic expressions of standing up for ourselves, but in a way that's like, it doesn't feel supportive. It doesn't feel like it's coming from love. It feels like it's coming from somewhere like a little darker. Why do we express ourselves in that way? Why is there toxic expressions? Because we've repressed the expression for too long. So it's like an explosion of emotion. We've constantly let ourselves be walked over and walked over and walked over. We've constantly said yes, too much, too much, too much, till that pressure rises and we just like, blah, it escapes from us. And so then we like really are spitting venom. We've repressed that expression of emotion, so when it does come out, it's in a toxic way. And then we see all this toxic way of expressing outside of ourselves, and we're fearful of that energy. We're like, oof, that's intense. Okay, it's not okay to say my yes and no. It's not okay to set boundaries because look what happens. There's chaos and it's aggressive. But what we're seeing isn't the healthy expression of that. What we're seeing is what happens when we don't express that. And then it becomes a perpetual loop. So when we don't express that, then we lock it down, we repress it, but the pressure's still rising. There's still that energy that we really need to say this thing, but we're not yet. And then what happens? After being repressed for too long, it comes out again. And we express it toxically. So then we see in ourselves, oh, it's not okay because look how it's come out. I was like a horrible person. And then we don't repress it. Then we don't express it. And then that loop happens. But if we were to really honor that moment where we know there's something we need to say to that person, if we say it in that time where we know, not repress it from fear of what will happen, but if we express things the moment they arise, if we say yes, say no, if we set boundaries straight away, then it's a clear energy. It stays in the love energy. It can be received much more readily, much more embraced by the other person because we haven't repressed it for too long. So connecting with our Durga is about how can we recognize this energy within us, embody that energy and express it and not be fearful of it anymore. Know that people may still be triggered by the energy of toxic expression before. So even if you're not expressing toxically, they might still have a, oof, wow, she's speaking her truth. Defense might be mirrored back to you. They might project that. But if you're standing in your truth and speaking up for yourself, then it's not so much about how the other person responds. It's not that you don't care about that, but it's that you don't let them dictate, what will they say, what will they think. That doesn't dictate us being in our power anymore. And then the people who are really right for us to be in our lives will stay. The people who aren't ready to be met with our power won't. When it comes to family, it's a little different, but know that you're loved always, even if it creates a little bit of hardness around how you navigate this new energy of you being in your power. But eventually you become a model for people to see, wow, that is a powerful being. She knows how to ask for what she needs. And what a gift that is to give our friends to see that. Our daughters to see a woman in power coming from love. So this is just some of the gifts that goddess archetype work can give, and that I've seen in the women I work with, that I feel when I work with this. And this is what I have to share. It's not all like super full power Durga energy. We also have the Lakshmi, which is all about the pleasure, sensuality. We have more dynamic energies because the feminine is dynamic. It's not just one, it's so much. So if you're interested in this work further, stay connected with what I'm sharing online, on YouTube, on my social media, or reach out or join one of our online immersions, the 5-week immersions, or even the retreats that we have immersed in Bali. Contact me if you're interested in any of this work. But know that already you can start to embody these archetypes. You can start to invite them into your life because they are you. It is you energy. Thank you for listening. Have a beautiful day.